Never been a fan of where my battery switch is located. It's in a hatch, under a seat, sometimes it's difficult to get to, and I thought there's got to be a better place to put this. So with the help of New Wire Marine, I picked up a couple of products that will help fix this problem, but more importantly address a critical safety issue that my boat has had for a long time. So I headed over to the RigPro section on New Wire Marine's website. The first product I ordered is something called the X1 recessed battery switch mount. What this allows you to do is take a battery switch and recess mount it or reverse mount it into, say, a console or maybe a bulkhead. After selecting the battery switch for my use case, I went back to the RigPro section and I picked up another item, their X1 series rigging board. Now what the rigging board does is it works on the back side of the switch and allows you to add something that was missing on my boat, which was a main breaker. How do you calculate the correct breaker for your particular situation? In this fictitious example, I'm going to show you how I did it. First thing you have to do is you have to take a look at something called continuous load and then intermediate load. Continuous load are those items you expect to run for a continuous amount of time. Intermediate, well, things like a trim tab, you just kick them on and off very rarely. Add up the total for your continuous and your intermediate amp load requirements, and that'll ultimately get you to a total size. And that size is going to be dependent upon all of the items you have on your boat. There's a lot of resources you can check out online to figure out how to do this, but in principle, this is how it works. So in my case, I needed a 50 amp breaker for the house power on my boat. So I added it to the cart and ordered the product from New Wire Marine. And within days, I had it shipped to my door. Collect everything you need to start the job, all your tools, read through the instructions. But one of the things you are going to need is you're going to need the template. And this template will show you where and how to position the hole that you're going to have to cut ultimately in a cockpit, a bulkhead, or say your console. Now you can jump online and grab a PDF file of it and you'll see that there's a ruler on the edge. Check the ruler on the edge of this paper because what I noticed is my printer would reduce by default the size of the PDF if you go File Print. So I always make sure to check the scale, make sure it's 100%, and then print my file. Once I had it done, I wanted to go ahead and position and mark out all of the different elements for this job. One is the rigging board. I wanted to know how did the rigging board position based on the hole I'm going to cut. You'll see that what I've done here is I've drawn a key line around the position of the rigging board and also the surface mount. Lining up the holes with the little positions of the drill marks, you can see I went ahead and drew some lines around the piece. So when I go to position everything, I can use this as a template to know how big of a hole to cut and also where are these different pieces going to fit in relation to where I wanted to position the switch. Now I wanted to put my switch over here just under the seat over on the right hand side or the starboard side of the boat. Now it was a very tight place to position it, so I wanted to make sure the rigging board and the surface mount had plenty of room but also were up and out of the way. Using the key line that I drew onto the template, it makes it a lot easier to figure out where this position is going to be and ensure that I have the right place to draw the hole. Using painter's tape, I wanted to protect the gel coat where I ultimately was going to cut the hole for the recessed mount. Measure twice, cut once. So what I did is I grabbed my template again, wanting to make sure that the edge of where the rigging board would be positioned and also where the hole for the surface mount are all in the right place. So by having those things drawn on here, you'll notice it makes it a lot easier for me to position the exact location for this hole. You also notice that I drew a crosshatch on here to get a center point on that hole. I'll explain that in a moment. Double checking that I had everything lined up correctly, I used a center punch to mark the center point of where the hole was going to go. Now you can use a jigsaw to cut a large hole like this, but in my case I used something a bit more dangerous. This is a carbide adjustable circular cutter, and I'm going to tell you right now it made quick work of this job, but boy, you really got to watch yourself as that thing goes whizzing around. With the hole cut, it was time to do an initial test fit. Did all of this work pay off? Yes, it did. The surface mount went in perfectly, exactly where I wanted it. Let's get the area cleaned up. Get that fiberglass dust up off of the cockpit, out of the hatch area, otherwise you're going to be scratching yourself within an inch of your life. Now it's time to drill the holes for the surface mount. Using a level, I made sure that the surface mount was positioned correctly, and I marked the holes to begin drilling. So it was time to start the installation, but the first thing I had to do was rotate the position of the breaker from the way I was going to mount this rigging board. Then I had to mount the battery switch to the recessed mount and also consider sealing this. You are opening up a hole, so we went ahead and added a little life seal around the outer edges of the X1 to ensure a watertight seal so nothing gets into the hatch. I rerouted the wiring to connect to the battery switch. I connected the house power now to the new circuit breaker, and at this point, we're done. Install was easy, project ended up looking nice and clean in the end. I was able to add the safety that I wanted by adding the house power circuit breaker. I think this was great. Tell me what you think below. Is this something you would do on your own boat? Are these the projects you're looking for? Comment, like, share. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram. And as always, this is Captain Jan saying, thanks for watching.